Okay, we are here at the Village Cinemas Jam Factory for a day that I have been waiting for a very, very long time, and that is the preview screening of Thor Ragnarok. I've been waiting for this movie for like 3 or 4 years since they first announced it. Alicia's here with me today. Her entire knowledge of the Marvel Universe spans the Winter Soldier, Civil War, and Spider-Man Homecoming, and that's it. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see how Alicia enjoys this movie here today. But me, I'm very excited, and I'm getting ready to deliver what's probably going to be a pretty biased review tonight. So we're going to head up these stairs today and check out the movie. We are not heading up those stairs there. Ugh. You excited? Yes. Let's go. Let's watch it. I'm so excited. Okay, let's talk Thor Ragnarok. Now, out of all the Marvel movies that Kevin Feige announced in 2014, when he announced that massive slate of movies, Thor Ragnarok was one of the ones that I sort of held at the top of my list of the ones that I was really, really anticipating. So, has this movie lived up to my expectations? I'll get to that in a second. First of all, let's talk about the story of this film. I don't want to talk about it too much, because I feel like the more I talk about it, the more I'm sort of going to give away this plot. This movie picks up 2 years after Avengers Age of Ultron. The last time we saw Thor, he was having these crazy hallucinations of the end of the world in Asgard, and he was having these hallucinations about the Infinity Stones. At the end of Ultron, we see Thor fly into the sky and say he's basically got some business to do. So in these last 2 years, Thor has been traveling the universe, trying to learn a bit more about the Infinity Stones, maybe find some if he can, and also try and make his way back to Asgard to warn his people about the incoming Ragnarok, which is, of course, the end of the world in Norse mythology, or in Asgardian mythology, as this movie may put it forward. Last time we saw Loki, he had assumed the throne of Odin, and he was pretending to be Odin, so that's sort of where we still find him at the moment. And of course, the last time we saw Bruce Banner, aka the Hulk, he was flying away in an Avengers Quinjet and turning off the tracking system, so no one really knew where he was. It turns out that sometime after, Hulk crash lands his Quinjet on a planet called Sakaar, which is overruled by this crazy Grandmaster guy played by Jeff Goldblum, just wonderfully. And the Grandmaster, anyone who sort of enters his planet, he steals and throws into this gladiator arena to fight against the Hulk. So that's sort of where we find all these people at this point. At this point, the goddess of death, Hela, played by Cate Blanchett, has overruled Asgard and is basically trying to bring on the Ragnarok. All the while, Thor is struggling to get back to Asgard to sort of warn his people and save his people from the incoming Ragnarok. I'm not going to say any more because I feel like this movie takes so many different twists and turns and different paths that it really is unpredictable which way it's going to go. Now, when I first heard that they were doing Ragnarok, the movie that I pictured in my head was this dark, gritty, epic, dramatic, mystical movie, like this battle against good and evil. And then when I heard that Taika Waititi was announced as the director of this film, myself, along with the rest of the collective Marvel fandom, sort of went, what? I am an enormous fan of Taika Waititi. I love his films. He is an independent comedic filmmaker from New Zealand, and I love his movies. His movies are fantastic. I've watched every single one of his past films, and I just adore them. But to me, the idea of this wacky, independent comedic director and Thor Ragnarok sort of didn't sit right with me. Now, I should say that historically, I haven't been a huge fan of Thor. The first Thor movie I didn't really enjoy at all. The second Thor movie was a bit iffy, and I've just never really found a great connection with the character in the Avengers movies. I am a huge fan of the early Thor comics though, which I've been reading over the last couple of years, and I just find them fascinating. And through the comics, I found a deep love for the character and the stories and the background and just everything involving the Thor mythology. But I could never connect with the character in the films. Now, as I said, I was very skeptical that this comedic director was going to be tackling what should be this really epic movie. And at first, and when I say at first, I mean maybe the first only 5 or 10 minutes, the humor sort of it takes you out of it a little bit because you're just so not used to seeing this kind of humor in one of these Marvel movies. Whereas you're expecting it from something like Guardians of the Galaxy, but something like Thor, you're just not expecting it. And at first it sort of takes you back a little bit. But after a little while, and it's only a very, very short while, maybe 15 minutes into the movie, it clicks. And it clicked in my head. The reason why the last 2 Thor movies didn't sit well with me was because they were dark and because they tried to be gritty and they tried to be really epic. And they didn't need to be. I realized soon that this humor, this light, this vibrancy that Taika Waititi brought to the film was a match made in heaven with the stories of Thor and even Ragnarok. It is a perfect match. And I sort of started questioning, how has this franchise taken so long to find its groove? While this movie does retain some of those dark, mystical elements, it does sort of tend to be more towards the side of comedy and fun and humor and lightness. And I think that was just the only way to do this film. The dark is taken away a little bit, but not completely. When this movie needs to be dramatic, it is dramatic. When this movie needs to be funny, it's funny. When it needs to be dark, it gets pretty dark. Taika Waititi does a very, very good job at just juggling everything. If you go back and you look at those early Thor comics from the 1960s, the Jack Kirby, Stan Lee stuff, they're so bright, they're vibrant, they're fun. And that's what this movie is. It's like a throwback to those old comics, and it feels like the last two movies were just a complete misstep. This movie really is what you would expect would be the brainchild of a independent filmmaker who's given a multi-million dollar budget to just go and do whatever the hell they want to do. But at the same time, Waititi manages to keep his humility intact, and as I said, it's very much a Waititi film. And that doesn't mean it's just flat out wacky comedy, but it means it's got heart and it's got soul. And that's what we need for this movie. You need heart, you need soul, and you need fun. This is a fun action-adventure movie. This is everything a Marvel movie should be. It's not something that's depressing. It's not something that makes you question your existence, or something that tries to make a really deep, existential, philosophical statement. No, it's just a bundle of fun. This movie is spectacular. And I have fallen in love with the character of Thor in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and his story and his plight. And this movie almost makes the other movies better, because it makes it feel like the other movies were just building up to this. And in saying that, this movie is such a love letter to the Marvel fans who have been watching these movies for almost the last 10 years. There are so many Easter eggs, cameos, and throwbacks to the old movies. And while this movie will be a lot of fun for newcomers and does sort of stand on its own a little bit, at moments you feel like having watched all these movies for the last 10 years is finally paying off. I've heard so many reviewers say that this movie stands on its own. And in its own right, it sort of does. It's sort of its own story, but it's not as self-contained as all these reviews might make you believe. This movie is happening within the wider Marvel Cinematic Universe. To really get to the core of this movie, you really do have to have a good understanding of what has happened and what is happening and what's about to happen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like I said, this movie is a thrill ride from beginning to end. There is so much fun, action, adventure, comedy. It was everything this movie and this franchise really, really needed. This is one of my favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe movies ever, and I would say this is in my top 5, and I might be biased in saying this, but this was a perfect Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, and for that fact, I'm giving this movie 5 Mjolnirs out of 5. That's right. That's coming from a Marvel fanboy though, so take that with a pinch of salt. To make this fair for all of those who are watching this who may not be such a huge Marvel fan, may not have seen all the Marvel movies, or maybe just have seen just a few, I think Alicia, she's standing behind the camera, she doesn't want to come in front of the camera, she's got to give her take on the movie. Alicia, what did you think of Thor Ragnarok? This is a completely unbiased review from a non-Marvel fanboy / girl. What did you think of the movie?
Yeah, it was alright.
It was alright? Yeah, what'd you give it out of 5?
4.
4? Woohoo! Thank you very much, Alicia. You can go back to bed now. I pulled her out of bed to do that. So there you have it. There's your review for Thor Ragnarok. Alright, that's all I have to say about Thor Ragnarok. I feel like I've been rambling for ages, as I always do, but that's my take on this movie. Go and see it. It's fantastic, and I'm gonna go see it on the weekend again, because this movie just completely blew me away. And on one hand, it was what I was expecting, but not what I was expecting. Even when I sort of put this puzzle together in my head of what a Ragnarok movie directed by Waititi would turn out to be like, it wasn't this. And that is brilliant. It kept me surprised, kept me on my toes the whole way through. Love this movie. If you are a first-time viewer of my channel and you've liked my review here today and you'd like to see more reviews from me or just see any of the videos that I put together, then please do me a big solid, and after the jump, hit subscribe. To all my regular viewers out there, thank you once again for joining me, and to absolutely everybody out there, I hope I'll see you again soon. Until next time though, guys, take care, and I hope you have a marvelous day. Keep your eyes on the channel, because I got a great Thor Ragnarok video coming very soon.